everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today for this live stream event. My name is Rebecca. I'm the event planner of Microsoft Reactor New York. If this is your first time joining us, I usually run through a couple of slides here, so let me just do that. Also, up on the screen, you'll see before I change over to the next slide, the check-in. So enter event ID 14498 at aka.ms/reactor check-in to get workshop resources for today's workshop. I've also dropped that info into the chat, so it should be available there. So our code of conduct, Microsoft Reactor, provides a respectful environment for both our audience and our presenters. So we encourage engagement in the chat, but we just ask that you are mindful of the commentary and remain on topic. Our event guidelines. The session is recorded. It will be available on the Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel for on-demand access, probably within about 48 hours after this show ends. If you have questions, do feel free to drop them into the chat. Also comments, let us know where you're joining from. Let us know what you hope to gain out of this session. If you have not signed in, you'll need to do that to interact in the chat, both for YouTube and for Learn TV. So just kind of get that set up and you'll refresh the page and we'll pick up from where we left off. You can rewind the session a little bit if you need to. And closed captioning, it is available on Learn TV, or it should be at the bottom of the stream. Just click on that icon. So today, we are once again joined by our regional cloud advocate, Gwen, for the first session of her October series, focusing on cloud admin. If this is, you're tuning in with us for a few of these sessions already, Gwen did a wonderful series last month, which I'll share in the chat, and we're continuing on with a few different things this month. So definitely check out, her event calendar, which I will share in the chat as well for the series page for this whole month. We're doing same time, same place, week after week. In this workshop, she'll show you how to secure your Azure resources with Azure RBAC, RBAC. I don't know how you say that. I should have asked. And this session will run for approximately 60 minutes with time for questions throughout. So again, if you have not done so, please check in for the session for those series and let us know, questions leading up to that.
Hi, everyone.
Hey,
Hi, Rebecca. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for doing another one of these.
Oh, nothing is more reliable than a session hosted by us every week, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we're going to be experts at this soon. We're going to be, we'll be YouTube famous or something maybe one of these days. I don't know about that, but.
Like Rebecca mentioned, do let me know where you're checking in from. I like seeing, what time it is and things like that. And yeah, I have some slides to share. If you check in, you'll be able to get them, and then we'll go through some slides. We'll cover some theory, and then we got a demo, and then I got some questions at the end that I want to quiz you all on. So make sure you're paying attention. This is a series organized around cloud administration technologies, which is sort of like my background. I got into cloud computing through administration related tasks. So we'll be covering how to use Azure AD, Azure RBAC to secure resources and to grant access to resources. In this session, next session, we're going to be doing some virtual machine management with the Azure CLI. The session after that, we're going to be doing some, I think it's monitoring or VNet. I think it might be VNet stuff. And then the last session is the monitoring session, right? So I sort of grabbed like the more popular tasks that you would do in a cloud administration role, cloud support engineer, cloud engineer role, and sort of put them together in a series. Yes, let me switch over to a big screen like this. Yes. And I'm going to just a minute or two before we kick into the slides themselves, but do check in so you can follow along with the slides, and I'm going to bring that up now. We can go from there. One second. PowerPoint does this weird thing where it takes up all all my screens and then I get lost. All right, now we should be able to switch to here, and perfect. Everyone, let me know if if things on the screen are too small. Let me know in the chat, or if you need slower pace, anything really. But yeah, today's session is how to secure your Azure resources with Azure RBAC. Once again, my name is Gwen. I'm a cloud advocate here at Microsoft, based in New York City. I'm also a YouTuber, so if you might be familiar with videos that I make. So let's dive in. Let's talk about first about what is Azure RBAC. If you use Azure at all, if you've signed up for an account, you also definitely have a subscription. And if you have a subscription, you definitely have used Azure AD, even if you don't think you've purposely done it. But yeah, every Azure subscription is associated with a single Azure Active Directory tenant. And Azure Active Directory is where you sort of hold your your users, your identities, your applications, anything that sort of needs to sort of have an identity will be managed by Azure Active Directory. So let's talk a little bit about Azure RBAC. And when we think about identity and access, the most important things that organizations think about are one, ensuring that when people leave or when people join the organization, they either lose or gain access to the resources that they need in the cloud. And then the second part here would be striking the right balance between autonomy and then central governance. So by this last point, we mean you really have to work with whoever's creating your Azure RBAC roles, and so pair up with them in terms of okay, when a lead developer joins, they need access to these things. When a support engineer joins, they need access to these things. When someone on the marketing team joins, they need access to these things, because it becomes very cumbersome if you have someone join a team and they need full access to a list of things that's already defined, and for every single individual resource, they have to constantly log a ticket or whatever mechanism you have to sort of provide those requests. So that's what we mean by striking the right balance between autonomy and central governance. So Azure RBAC stands for Azure Role-Based Access Control, or Azure RBAC, RBAC. And it's an authorization system in Azure that helps you manage who has access to Azure resources, what they can do with those resources, and where they have access. So the who would be the service principal, the what would be the role, and the access itself would be the role, and where would be the scope. We'll dive into this a little bit deeper as we go in these slides. Again, if you check in, you'll get all these slides. I take a lot of time summarizing awesome content for you. Also, I think it'd be, if you're studying for something like the 104 or the 204, actually every single Azure certification, I'm pretty sure, touches on Active Directory stuff. So it could be helpful for your summarized study notes, right? So let's talk a little bit about how Azure RBAC works. So you start off by granting access by assigning the appropriate Azure role. So what you can do, and the access that you have to different services and such, and then to users. So you would assign those roles to users, groups, and applications, and that would be the who. Again, remember that's the service principal, and at which scope where. And then we have this diagram on the right, and I'll step through those in a little bit. So the scope of a role assignment can be a management group. So we see what the management group up here. And a root management group would be the top level. And a management group is a group of subscriptions, remember that. So it can be a management group subscription, a resource group, or a single resource. So we can assign roles at the management group level, the subscription level, and the resource group level, or individual virtual machines, blob storage, anything like that, right? The Azure role that you assign dictates what the user group or application can manage within that scope. So remember that whatever role you're sort of giving to this person, that is what's going to tell them this is what you can do, this is what you can't access, things like that. And a role assigned at a parent scope also grants access to the child scopes contained within it. So if I assign a contributor role to a Gwen external Azure account at the subscription level, that means that at the resource group level, it'll be inherited, so I'll have access to everything in there. And then everything inside of all the resource groups that are inside of that subscription, I will also be able to access because of inheritance, right? Yeah. And let's sort of cover a couple of tasks or a couple of things that you might be asked to do with Azure RBAC, or that you are capable of doing with Azure RBAC. And like most things in Azure, we can accomplish them via the portal or via the CLI. And the demo part of this session, we're going to be doing them with both. I'll dive in a little deeper as to why we're sort of taking that approach. But anyway, so some things that you can do is, allow one user to manage virtual machines in a subscription and another user to manage virtual networks. You can allow a database administrator group, so that'd be a group of identities, to manage SQL databases in a subscription. You can allow a user to manage all resources in a resource group, such as virtual machines, websites, and subnets. Or you can allow it in an application, because remember, identities are users, user groups, and applications. Access to all resources in a resource group, right? So what a role assignment is. So we've talked about like the security principles, the role definition, so the actual role, what you can and can't do, and then the actual scope. But you don't really have a role assignment, and we'll see a little bit more about role assignments in the demo until you have sort of these three parts. So again, you have your security principle, your user, your group, or your service principle, which means an application. And then you'll have your role assignment for a contributor, and you see this contributor, this definition, this is actually JSON, and then you have actions and then not actions. We'll dive into what not actions are in a little bit. And then, for example, this would be assigned to the marketing group or the sales resource group, something like that, right? And in the definition, you see we have some built-in or some custom. There are a number of built-in Azure RBAC roles that you can already utilize, or you can make your custom ones. For example, and here we have reader support tickets or virtual machine operator. And then the scope, is it at the management group level, is it the subscription, the resource group level, or the individual resource level? Just keep in mind that you need, in order to have a role assignment, not just a role assignment, you need all of these parts to it, right? All right, not actions. So RBAC is a sort of, it has this allow policy. So it works by providing allow actions, but you can use not actions to create a set of not allowed permissions, right? So the access granted by a role, the effective permissions it's computed by subtracting the not actions operations from the actions operations. And for example, the contributor role has both actions and not actions, and we saw this back here. So we see here, that might be a little too small, but you can probably see that. We have actions and we have this wildcard here, and then we have the non-actions down here. Go back here. So yeah, for example, the contributor role has both the wildcard in the actions, and that means that it can perform all operations on the control plane. But then you would subtract the following operations in the non-actions to complete the effective permissions. So then you would end up removing delete roles and role assignments, create roles and role assignments, grant the caller user access, administrator access at the tenant scope, create or update any blueprint artifacts, and delete any blueprint artifacts. If you're familiar with the contributor role, it's one beneath the admin that has all access. So it's kind of like a co-owner in a sense, but there are actions that you can perform as well too. Yeah, and now let's dive into a demo unless anyone has any questions before we move forward. Again, these slides are available for you to use and download. If you check in, we'll send those over to you. So for the demo, we're going to cover list role assignments for yourself, list role assignments for a resource group, list built-in roles. We're going to grant access to a resource group. We're going to view some activity logs. We're going to remove access, and then we're going to do knowledge checks. I have two questions at the end here that we can sort of go back and forth on and discuss and sort of test knowledge, because active learning is great, right? And I just said we were going to do this in the portal and in the CLI. And I think because this session, the series, is focused around like an introductory level, and for people who want to get into cloud computing and sort of want to start with cloud administration, I do believe cloud administration is one of the most, I would say, like beginner-friendly or entry-level friendly spaces inside of the cloud computing field. But oftentimes I see people who are learning are sort of dedicated to just using the portal, just clicking around, and you're really losing the benefit of like automation and just commands that you can use to interact with your resources in the cloud. Every single cloud platform out there has a CLI. So I'm a big fan of like, we'll show one thing in the portal and then we'll show exactly how to do it in the CLI as well, right? So as I switch screens, I'm going to switch actually back here to full screen so I can gather everything. We'll switch back to the slides towards the end when I have some questions to ask y'all. But yeah, let's bring up, let me bring up this. I think we got to go a little higher there. All right, so let's switch into this view here. Nope, wrong one. This view here. There we go. All right, cool. Let me know if is that large enough? The font wise might want to go smaller, larger, anything. Let me know, right? So the first thing we want to do is sort of view the permissions that we have on ourselves. And what I have open actually is, so I have the Azure portal open on a private tab, and this is like a guest account that I just created for this demo. We don't really have access to anything in here. And then we have my sort of admin account open as well in the Azure portal. So the first thing we could do is to just view the permissions that we have assigned to us per subscription. So when you click on here in the portal itself, then you click on this, my permissions, then you can select the subscription that you want to view the permissions on. Since this is my admin account, this is the account that I used to actually create my Azure account. I'm an administrator to the subscription that I've selected here, same as here, and then same as this one as well. But if we go into the guest account that I've created, we click in here, go to my permissions, and you see I've been assigned the role contributor to the demo real-time resource group. And I've also been assigned the role reader to the Cloud Resume Challenge resource group inside of the Microsoft Azure sponsorship. And that looks like the only subscription that I have access to. Right, so that's how you would list or how you would view them in the portal. If you wanted to list individuals in the CLI, we can bring that up now. I just want to make sure I'm signed. Pretty sure I am signed in, but I don't want to not to have a mistake. So for example, let's take a look at, let's list the assignments that a specific user has. So for that, we would use AZ role. Is that large enough, or do we want to go larger? Let me know. Assignment. Easy role assignment. Oh, here's if you're not familiar with this CLI, anytime you sort of write commands out, you can use -- help. And if you're stuck at any point, it'll tell you everything to use, right? So for example, AZ role assignment and help, and then it says we can create, we can delete, we can list change logs, and we can update. And then there's some examples that we can reference as well. But I know I want to list. So I want to say AZ role assignment list, and then we'll provide the assignee that we want to do. And here you would provide the user principal name or the object ID of the user that you want to do. So I'll do just Gwen at, I believe it's Gwyneth Penna Outlook.microsoft, or on Microsoft.com. And I don't have any on this specific subscription. So when you're using the CLI, keep in mind that all the commands that you're working with at the moment, so what I'm typing in now is specific to the subscription that you've set your environment to, right? So if I go AZ account or show, and this will tell me which subscription I'm working on. I'm using in this one, right? But if I switch accounts to the one that we viewed in the portal, so I do AZ account, I'm pretty sure it's set subscription, and then I provide the name, Microsoft Azure sponsorship. I believe that's what it's called. Could be wrong. AZ account show. Perfect. Now I'm in this one. So if we run this here, I should have some sort of. I don't have any on this one either. Let me make sure I created the right one. Demo real time. Let me go into here. Resource groups, real time. I should have access to this subscription. Interesting. We might be missing the -- all list. I think we'll need a -- all here. Nope. It'll be probably before this one. I think assignee is the last one. -- all. There we go. All right. So I forgot the -- all. But then we see all the resources that I have access to. If we scroll down, we'll see my principal name, and then the resource group, Pomodoro Blazor resource group. And then we should also see the demo real time in here as well, and the Cloud Resume Challenge. And this is the same as what we would see in here. Scroll down to my permissions, and you see here all of those as well. All right, awesome. So now we can go ahead and sort of add access to different users and things like that to different users and to resources and such. So if we go back into my admin account, I'll open up Active Directory. And then in Active Directory, we can go to users and we'll get a list of all of our users. And there's actually different ways that you can sort of handle this. Like if you want to view the roles assigned per user, you would go specifically into the user. You can see assigned roles in here. We could also approach this by going to a subscription. Like if we want to go to subscription, we'll use this sponsorship one. We'll go to access control IAM. Role assignments in here, and we'll see all the roles, all the identities that have access to this resource group or the subscription. We could also go to the resource group level. So we're going to resource group. We'll pick one of these. We'll pick this crypto prices one, and then again we'll go to the access control, role assignments, and we see here also all the identities that have access to it as well. And if you remember, we also have individual subscriptions. So if I go inside of this specific resource group, and then we'll go into some resource in here. I can't scroll down. Hold on. I think it's because it's too large. There we go. Then if I go to, we'll look at the storage account. Access control, role assignments, and then we'll also see all the identities that I have here. So you sort of get the pattern, whereas like every single resource, Azure resource out there, or service that you can use from the portal or from the CLI will have this access control. And then we also have the activity monitor, the activity log here, which we'll take a look at in a little bit. But for this specific resource, let's add access to it for my guest account, which is the one that I have open in a private tab. And we'll add this in here. And then we'll click add role assignment. And let's open up like just some, like, I don't know, there's like so many in here. We'll do storage table data reader. Fine. And then we'll select my the guest account that I'm working with, then I'll hit save. Fantastic. Now we can go into the back into the access control and then role assignments, and then we'll see that Gwen Pena external has the storage table data reader, right? So now let's take the same approach to first let's list all the access that a specific resource group has, and then from there we can assign or remove it from the CLI as well. I see we have a question. Let me ask this here. Please can I ask, what are you making? We're covering Azure RBAC and how to sort of assign access to resources via the Azure portal and the Azure CLI. So I'm trying to demo the actions that we take in the portal in the same, sort of mimic the same, do the same exact tasks in the CLI as well. We're not necessarily making anything, but we're sort of just covering how do we take care of these things. All right, cool. So now we wanted to list the assignments for a resource group. So we could do this by saying AZ role assignment, assignment, and we could do list, and we'll say resource group. We just assigned I think it was to crypto tracker. So this crypto prices -RG. And we group, and then we crypto prices -RG. And then it'll tell us here, are we in the right? Hold on a second. We might be in the wrong Microsoft Azure. No, we're in the right one. Here, crypto prices RG, and we're set to the right subscription as well. AZ role assignment list -- resource group, crypto prices resource group. I think that's correct. Oh, you know what? We probably need to do list -- include inherited. All right, there we go. So that'll sort of match everything that is in here. If we go to prices, and then we'll go up here to access control, and then we'll do role assignments. I forgot to mention this, but we have the scope. So remember we talked about you need a service principal, you need a role, and then you need a scope in order to have a role assignment. So you have sort of that same those same columns or requirements in here. So you have the type, the role, the scope, and the condition itself. So remember we talked about if you have something set at the management group level, the subscription will inherit it. If it's at the subscription group level, the resource group and the individual resources will also inherit it. So that's why we see these inherited ones. And when I brought up the CLI and I did a search for, hey, so the command I did was AZ role assignment list, and then I wasn't using the included inherited tag here. That's why we didn't see anything. And we see that this matches us here. But I thought we had added to, oh, we added it to the individual resource and not the resource group. All right, so let's do this actually. So let's add a role to, so we'll do easy role, and now let's create an assignment. Create, and then we'll say assignee. Assignee is going to be Gwen at gwyneth@outlook.onmicrosoft.com, and then we have to provide the role name. We can just set one like reader, which is just an easy one to remember. But there's remember there's a bunch in here. Like we go back here and we click add role assignment. We have it's like a bunch of roles in here, and you can create your custom ones as well. We probably could have picked something more fun, like let's see, data purger. How about that? That sounds interesting. So we'll have to go back here, and then instead of reader, we'll put data purger resource group. We'll say crypto prices dash resource group. Oh, okay. Hold on. Forgot because there's a space in there. We'll need to surround the name with. All right, and then we get JSON output. Remember that when you create assignments, it's JSON data that you could output. Like when you're creating these roles as well, you would input JSON. So you could describe a role and assignment with JSON as well, which we saw in that example of the actions and not actions in these slides. Right. So now we've created this assignment at the resource group level. So if I go and list here, and if I don't include list inherited, we should still see something. There we go. And we should still see that for the service principal, which is my sort of external guest that I've created. It's a type user, and to the resource group crypto prices, we've given the role definition ID, which this is the role definition of the data purger here, right? Which is the name that we provided, right? So if I go into my guest, where is in here, into, I believe here. So we should start seeing more things populate as we have access to the things, right? So now we should see crypto prices appear in here, and maybe we need to refresh the whole thing. I know it takes, this is a good opportunity to show y'all the activity log and things like that as this populates here. But yeah, this we'll go into here, we'll go back here. So depending on sort of where you want to understand what kind of access control activity has been happening, if you want to access it, the individual, like it depends on the scope, right? If you need a report of your entire tenant, you'll go to the entire tenant level or the subscription level or the resource group and whatever, right? So if I wanted to see the activity on this specific resource group, I'll make sure I'm in here, and then I'll make sure I'll go to the access control and actually activity log. And then in here, we'll get all the operations that we've done. So it says 2 minutes ago, we can see that we have succeeded. The status is succeeded in create role assignment. We can expand this. Maybe we should be able to actually click in this and we see the JSON data. And we see create role assignment, and we get the timestamp, who initiated is in terms of like compliance and security, things like that. It's very important to know who initiated what kind of things. And then it says shared with Gwen Pena external, which is the user itself that got access that we provided here. And if we refresh that. All right, that was the last one that we did on this resource group. If we open here, we should now see this in here. What did we call crypto prices? I think so. Maybe in here. I know it takes a few minutes to populate. All right, we'll give it a second. I'm pretty sure it'll show up. But let's keep chugging along, right? So we wanted to add view permissions or like I guess RBAC roles for individual users, resources, resource groups, and we wanted to for view activity monitor. We could also take a look at the individual ones here. Overview. We'll close this one. We'll take a look at the cloud resume challenge here because I know this is something that has quite a bit of identities that have access to it. Let's give it a second. Let's go a little larger, I think. Got a comment saying it's not too. Is that good enough? I think we're good there. Let me know. All right. So if we scroll down to the access control on here, and then we'll do role assignments, right? We see here, this one's a little different versus like the other resource groups where we had typical like, users or actually people who like sign in. I have applications that have access to this. So example, we see it's an enterprise application, and this was used for some CDN purposes. And then I have other applications that were set as a contributor. And then we have my external user, which is set to reader, which is why when I go to in here, and then I go in here, I have access to view things. But if I try to go ahead and create something, like I'll create we'll create like a function or something, create. Well, so you cannot perform this action without all of the following permissions. And it actually tells us what we need to add. Microsoft Web, Server Farms, right? Microsoft Web, websites, right? As well. All right. And if we go back here, we'll close this one too. Actually, let's take a look at the activity log on this one. I don't think I've done anything too recently. Yeah, right. But you'll see, you get all the sort of like the authorization changes that have been made in here. And now we should check back on this one here and see if we got access to our other resource groups. Resource group. Oh, still not popping up that crypto prices. Interesting. Let's take a look again. Maybe I assigned it to the wrong one. Let's go into crypto prices here, and then we'll go into the access control. And we'll take a look at the role assignments. Yeah, data. You know what? Data purger might not have like the view access. So if we'll do this again. We'll do role assignment. We'll give it like let's give it a contributor level to this account. Then we'll hit save. Just because I was trying to be clever with that name and try to use something that sounded cool, I guess, with the role. It didn't actually end up working the way I thought it would. But let's take a look. And if we go into our activity log, and we'll see if that assignment has actually finished. I know to populate here, it takes a few minutes. All right, let's go back to our portal here. Then we refresh here. Still nothing. What's going on? Let's take a look at our permissions in here. We'll go to our contributor demo. Okay. Let's give it a second to load. If anyone has any questions, that would be a great time while we're sort of idle figuring out what's going on here. But while this loads, we still need to cover removing permissions, and we'll do that in both the CLI and such here. Create role assignment. All right, so it looks like it was successful. Create role assignment to event initiated message. Oh, wait, hold on. We'll take a look here. Yeah, it was succeeded. So we'll go in here. We'll take a look here. Started. It says, so that's another thing that I forgot to mention. You have a status. So remember, like when you're applying permissions, they don't apply immediately. So it's set to started. It hasn't finished yet. So we got to wait a few minutes for it to like actually populate, which would make sense why the resources weren't populating in the actual the view that I have for the guests. So in here. So now we'll just move this back to the resource groups here, and we'll go back down here. All right, awesome. I'm gonna actually open another tab. That way we can keep that open. I don't lose my place. So in order to sort of work with removing access, it's like pretty straightforward. You can guess like you'll go into any. We'll do it at the. I don't want to remove the subscription, but we'll do it at like the resource group level, and we'll pick one of these we'll pick this Cloud Resume Challenge one. So in the Cloud Resume Challenge one, which is one that I do have access to view in here. Oh, here, then it showed up right now. The crypto prices, see? It is working. I wasn't crazy. So it's right here. If I click on this one, and then I go into access control, we see that I have my role assignments. And you see that I am now a contributor, but the reason I wasn't seeing anything in the portal is because it's just data purger. So if I can purge analytics data. So that's the reason why we weren't seeing it in the actual portal. All right. So if we go, we'll scroll back, we'll remove this one there, and we'll go to activity log, no, access control, and then role assignments, and then we'll grab this one, and then which is the guest account. Then we're going to remove it. Then we'll hit yes. And now what I have to do is find another resource group that has this user tied to it, and then we can remove it from there as well. And we'll go to resource group. We'll go to maybe crypt. No, I think I just added. There was a Blazor one. Yes, this one here. We'll go in here and we'll refresh this. We have the demo real time, and then we have crypto prices, which I just added. Demo real time resource group. Let's take a look at that one actually. Demo real time. Okay, here. So now we'll do it in the CLI, right? So with the CLI, we can. Sorry, I just got lost looking at a question that we have in the chat. So with the CLI, it's actually very, very similar to like what creating assignment is. So we'll just use our trusty help menu. So we do AZ role assignment, and then we'll just do -- help, so we can get more context as to how we will work with which command we have to use. We have create, delete lists. We've used create, we've used lists, we haven't used the change logs. The reason I wouldn't necessarily say I don't like using the change logs in the CLI, it's just that it's a lot of JSON data. I could show a little bit later. So it's kind of hard to, if you don't know specifically what you're looking for, it's harder to go through, especially with it just being like text in a console. So it's a little bit easier especially when you're getting started, to view it from the portal itself, but we'll take a look in a second. So yeah, the command looks like we want to use is delete. So if we do AZ role assignment delete, and then we'll do a help again, so it gives us an example. So for example, AZ role assignment delete, and then the assignee will provide the user that I'm using, and then the role that we have to remove. So we'll do AZ role assignment delete, and then we'll put the assignee, which is assignee, which is Gwen at Gwyneth. I should have saved this in a variable. Outlook. Is it com, or is it just Outlook.on Microsoft.com, and then the role we want to remove is, let's take a look. Which role do we want to remove from it? Demo real time, activity log, actually access control, view my access, contributor. We want to remove the contributor. Contributor, and then we'll say resource group. Tell resource group we want to do it, and I think it's demo real-time real-time dash resource group. Real-time dash resource group. Let's see if that works. All right, it looks like it did work, so we'll go down here, and then we'll go into the demo real-time dash resource group. We'll go into activity log, actually access control first, role assignments, and we see that Gwen, the external one, is no longer there. So that worked. I want to answer this question that we got here. Ali asks, what monitor tool can I use to get alert monitor user activity? Azure Monitor is most likely going to be your best bet, just because it's already like built in, and you'll be able to access it from like the left panel. But you can pull this sort of like data from like any monitoring service that you're using, like some popular ones like New Relic, Datadog, Prometheus, things like that. You'd be able to query that kind of stuff too, right? But Azure Monitor, I feel if you don't have anything in place, I would say give Azure Monitor a try, because it's they're meant to work seamlessly together. Okay, so what was I going to do now? Oh, we're going to take a look at if it's removed the access from my panel here. We'll close this. So I refresh here. We'll see that the Cloud Resume 1 has removed, and the real time is no longer there too, because I've lost access to those as well. I did want to show you all what the insights look like. So we showed like the monitoring activity, which is pretty. It's a lot to look at, but we'll do that to sort of like wrap up the demo part in here. So let me clear this here. And again, so AZ role assignment. This is why I really like working with the CLI, because once you know, so for example, like AZ account, to set your subscriptions and account details. AZ group to work with resource group. AZ, for example, AZ role assignment. Like you kind of start building sort of like this dictionary, this vocabulary, like, oh, if I need to work with this service, I'll use this command. If I need to use that service, I'll use this. And then the commands and the tags is what changed, but you can also use the help menu to sort of figure out how what combinations you need to make. And then of course you have the power of the bash command line, where you have like endless possibilities of commands and pipelines and things that you can build, right? So what we're going to do here, we're going to do a help here so we can figure out how to use the listing one. I just want to say a quick hello to Joe. How you doing? Thanks for hanging out. What did we want to do? All right, so we wanted to do list change logs. So we want to do AZ role assignment, list change logs. Do -- help here as well, so we can see further what. Oh, I spelled this wrong. Hold on. Assignment. It wouldn't be a demo of mine if I didn't make any mistakes. Okay, so it tells us list change logs for role assignment. So I wonder if we just do AZ role assignment list change. Actually, we'll just do this up here without the help and see what happens. And yeah, there's a lot of, it's actually not that much on this one. So we see the action was revoked. We can see the caller, so who made the call, the principal ID, principal name, and so that was the external account, and then what role was revoked, and then the scope name, all that kind of thing. All right, so never mind. It wasn't that overwhelming. I think it was because I was looking at like a specific one that had been doing a bunch at, and then we could sort of like just script like, oh, we want to know just action or something like that, right? So this is why I love the command line, because you can use things like grep and piping and things like that, right? It's like, oh, maybe you just need to know how many times you see the revoked action, or maybe you need to see the times of like who's like been doing activity in here. We'll use a call out one, right? So that would be our activity logs in the CLI, very similar to what you would see in here once it loads. And it's also a lot quicker in the CLI. Another reason why to become familiar and become comfortable with the command line. For our next session, we're doing purely CLI with managing virtual machines. So I wanted to sort of kick off your experience using a CLI and commands in this session. That way you're more comfortable for the next one. Yeah, we'll give this a minute. If it doesn't load, then we'll hop back into the slides, because I have a couple of questions that we can wrap up. Oh, there we go. See, a few minutes. All right. So that sort of like ends this part. But you know what? Let me switch to this one. Yes, this one, and then I'll switch to back to the PowerPoint. So a couple of things I want to share, and then we can wrap up right about on time. I believe so. So we'll do a quick knowledge check. Just reiterate some things that we've gone over. And then if anyone has any questions in the chat, I think I addressed the majority of them, I believe so. But if not, let me know. All right, so actually, hold on, I gotta switch to the screen. This one, nope, this one, there we go. Knowledge check. So here's a question. Suppose a team member can't view resources in a resource group. Where would the administrator, so you, cloud administrator, go to check the team member's access? So we have three options here. Check the team member's permissions by going to their Azure profile, my permissions. B, go to the resource group and select access control role assignments. Or C, go to one of the resources in the resource group and select role assignments. So whenever you sort of want to triage access issues, you really want to base it on like the scope itself. It's not necessarily that any of the answers are incorrect. It's more of like which one's going to get you there faster. So we can tell that the question itself is asking, all right, well, can't view resources in a resource group. So we need to know permissions for the resource group. So we see one of these answers already says resource group. So I'm going to say it's B. Oh, there we go. And yes, I'm correct. But yeah, I remember when you're sort of triaging access levels, start with the scope first. Oh, and then from there you can pinpoint if you need to. But that's a good first step. And I have one more for y'all. So I think I did this wrong question. Oh my goodness. I think this is the same question as this last one. But anyway, this last one was supposed to be talking about if I needed to download a report from like the activity log that we saw there. how would but I needed to get every single thing and nothing specific to like a resource group or anything like that. The correct answer was A, search for activity log and filter on the create role assignments operations. So yeah, you just, if you needed to filter through like a specific action, you can do like the create, the revoke actions and things like that, right? And remember that at each resource group, subscription level, and you have activity logs in every single one of them. And again, it's best for you to approach it via like the scope and then the role and then the who. That's it for the slides. Let me switch back to full screen here. If we have any questions we want to tackle, I'd be more than happy to sort of answer them. But that was a quick and pretty straightforward example and set in demos and things like that.
Hey, I'm gonna pop on.
Oh, hey, sure. Do we have any?
Oh, that's cool.
Yes.
There. So we like this view better. We have not had that many questions coming in. I feel like sometimes, as we talked about before, a lot of our viewers are joining us from Microsoft Reactor, Microsoft's Learn TV. Mm-hmm. If you're not familiar with that audience and you're tuning in from another location, if you just do a search for Microsoft Learn TV, it's another avenue of free content that you can check out. They're constantly rolling out streams and providing a lot of info along with the Microsoft Reactor program. We're always pushing things out. I'm mostly just talking to give people the opportunity to answer questions.
I feel like it's always at the end where people want to ask questions about like the series in general or cloud things in general, which I'm always open to answering, Azure things in general. If anyone has questions, just let me know. We can hang out for a few minutes, or we could end it early and then I can go eat dinner as well. That works well.
I will do a little plug here,
yes.
But let me just pop over to Learn TV. Oh, I had a point about Learn TV. So Learn TV, just similar to YouTube, where you have to create an account to gain access to the chat. I'm thinking maybe that might be a little bit of the reason why we might not be getting as many questions. Mm-hmm. People did submit to a survey I posted there, though. They said a few people were recommended to check out this session by a friend, not necessarily familiar with the Reactor yet. So definitely, if you are not familiar, MicrosoftReactor.com. I'll show a slide with some of those links later. But Gwen will be back again next week, as she mentioned, covering Azure CLI. So if you learned something this week, want to learn more next week, definitely come back, check us out.
We'll dive into more CLI stuff, more command stuff, and really how to become more of a power user with commands, because that's the point of working in the cloud. It's all about how you can quickly do these things and not you're clicking around. I also really like the terminal. But anyway, that'll be next week, same time, same day. Where to find us.
Yeah. And we're, coming to you live from New York. I feel like it's Saturday night now, Kim. But we, the Reactor program is international. We have 11 physical spaces. We have content running around the clock. So if you're not familiar, again, check us out. Here, I'll skip ahead. The survey can wait. But just know that we are on Twitter. We have a website, MicrosoftReactor.com. You can organize that by location, time, so on and so forth, and see what's available, different topics of interest in the tech world. We're on Meetup. Pick the location closest to you, but definitely check out the other calendars if you happen to be up late or up early. Maybe
you can't sleep. Come watch us do some.
Exactly. Ask questions. We like questions. We want you guys to learn and stuff. Or if you don't have those questions right now, but you are rewatching this later, something occurs
that's right.
to you.
Everything's available to watch later.
Yeah, on YouTube. Mm-hmm. We're on Microsoft Reactor YouTube, also Gwen's YouTube. And you can always message us and ask us, or tune in next time and ask unrelated questions to the topic being covered.
Schedule at the end of the session just for random questions.
Exactly. But yeah, and if you happen to have the opportunity, please, fill out our survey. That's our other plug. Check it out. Let us know your thoughts and your feelings. Let me just check Learn one last time. It doesn't, yeah, quiet day. Last time, a lot more people asking questions.
All right, well, that's good for me.
Dinner.
Yeah, dinner.
Once again, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Gwen. This was fantastic. And we'll see you guys at the next one. Take care now.